Morning. This is Lulia De Silva for Gold FM, bringing you your news in detail.
The news headlines on Gold FM.
In your news headlines, Sri Lanka power hikes triggered 20% surge in construction costs as consumer fury mounts. New energy guidelines cut power to large events and dim streetlights nationwide. Hambantota hosts massive 4-day Indo-Pakistan wedding. Doctors to strike at 8 a.m. In news overseas, Iranian parliamentary committee approves new transit fees for Strait of Hormuz. And in sports news, 17-year-old makes IPL history.
The top story on Gold FM.
In your top story, another increase in electricity tariffs is very much possible amid the escalating Middle East conflict. That's according to the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka. The announcement comes following an electricity tariff hike for the second quarter of the year, which was announced yesterday. Though it falls short of the 13.56% hike that the Ceylon Electricity Board called for, it still stings. Instead of an average hike across the board, the PUCSL chairman, Professor KPL Chandralal, says that differing percentages of increase will be applied to various bands of usage. As such, those with a consumption of less than 30 units of electricity will see a 4.3% rise in tariffs, which translates to a possible maximum increase of 15 rupees per month. For those consuming 31 to 60 units, the hike is 6.9%, with a maximum of a 45 rupee increase in the bill. As for 61 units to 90 units, the increase is also 6.9%, but with a maximum of 120 rupee increase in the bill. Consumers falling into the 91 to 180 unit band will see a tariff increase of 7.2%, translating to a 420 rupee maximum cost increase per month. Finally, for people using more than 180 units per month, they will see a hike north of 25%. In the meantime, industries are slapped with a hike of 8.7%, with hotels made to endure a 9.9% tariff increase. State institutions aren't spared, and they will be subjected to a 14.4% increase. As for religious institutions, those with consumption below 180 units per month are spared a tariff hike, but those consuming more than 180 units will be subjected to a 9.6% hike. In the meantime, the Commissioner General of Essential Services issued guidelines intended to curb the usage of fuel and energy. According to the document, all state and statutory institutions are to deactivate all air conditioning units at 3 p.m. The private sector is also requested to adopt similar energy-saving measures. He also seeks illuminated advertising boards and screens at various locations to be switched off after 8 p.m. Further, local government authorities are to implement a special program to switch off street lamps between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. Meanwhile, large-scale festivals and musical performances with more than 100 participants must be conducted without drawing electricity from the national grid.
This is the local news on Gold FM.
Following yesterday's tariff hike, we spoke to an energy expert on the whys and what-ifs of the increase. Vidura Ralapanaba attributes the hike not only to global markets, but to a failure in procurement that the public is now being asked to fund.
We are all concerned about this coal problem. There is a quality problem where coal plant is generating 150 megawatts less than what it should be, and this has forced the utility to run more oil-based generation. We are also seeing a potential shipment shortage during the unloading season. So these two factors have not been considered in the tariff, which I believe is the correct thing. And the reason why it is not being done is, first of all, CEB and its successor companies have not asked for a tariff revision based on the coal availability and coal quality. Second reason is that even within the tariff methodology, such allocation cannot be done because this is a failure of a procurement process. So ratepayers like us should not be asked to foot the bill for the same. Now, somebody still has to pay for that money. Still don't know the real cost.
The increase might sound like a number on a page, but Ralapanava reminds of 2023, when similar hikes pushed millions of Sri Lankans into the dark.
If you make electricity prices too high for certain category of consumers so that it's not affordable to them, what it will do is it will force them to get disconnected because they are unable to pay the bills. And we've seen this happen in 2023 when electricity prices were increased for low-income households at a very high level. And that resulted, UCSL and CB estimate, resulted about 1.3 million households. 1.3 million households is like 5 million. That's about 25% of the country's population having their electricity supplies disconnected because of their inability to pay. So always this affordability and equity are considered in the tariff determination. Now CEB doesn't always do that, but that's what PUCSL does.
Ralapanava insists that the government is ignoring the one thing that doesn't change price during a war. He went on to issue warnings for darker times ahead.
UCSL has kept in the tariff determination a provision for a fossil fuel surcharge, right? And that is because we don't have good visibility on the oil prices for the next quarter. So, we have the prices now, it might go up, continue to go up, and if such a case, there may be a risk of oil price surcharge, which we used to have, I think, about 20-30 years ago. That may come up on that. I think there's a bigger problem. The reason why we are so exposed to this fossil fuel price increase is because CEB and the current government has been very, very negative in terms of renewable energy growth. As I mentioned earlier, the reason why we are able to contain the price increase at 13% is because of the large rooftop solar and other renewable energy in the grid. If we had more and if we had battery storage, we could have been able to hold back this tariff increase, especially the third quarter tariff increase at much lower levels. So I just hope that the government will change course and really push hard and add more and more renewables and battery storage, because that's the only electricity generation that has not changed its price because of a war. So the more renewables we have on the grid supported by battery storage, less risk it is for our electricity bill.
The Secretary of the National Construction Workers Association, Supunabe Sekara, and the Chairman of the All Ceylon Communication Owners Association, Indrajit Pereira, voiced strong opposition to the hike in electricity bills. Their comments follow the announcement by the Public Utilities Commission that tariffs will rise by up to 25% for certain categories, starting from April. The union leaders warned that the increased costs will cripple small businesses and the construction sector, for the burdening a public already struggling with high operational expenses. The Gampaha Chief Magistrate ordered the handover of a party office in Salmal Pidasa, Kirindavila Road, to the Frontline Socialist Party, following a legal dispute with the Janata Vimukti Peramuna. The premises came under police control last September after a violent confrontation broke out when JVP members allegedly attempted to seize the building. 6 individuals, including Central Committee member Sujit Kuruvita, sustained injuries during the initial clash. The court noted that while the petitioners provided evidence of occupancy, the opposing party failed to submit any claims regarding ownership during the 2-month hearing. Attorney Nuan Bopage, representing the Frontline Socialist Party, welcomed the decision after verdict confirmation at the Gampaha Magistrates Court. The Department of Examinations announced that the Grade 5 scholarship examination will take place on the 9th of August. Applications for the exam opened yesterday and will remain available online until midnight on the 30th of April. Officials emphasised that the closing date for submissions will not be extended under any circumstances. Parents and teachers must submit all entries through the official departmental website, where detailed instructions for the digital process are available. The examination remains a key milestone for primary school students seeking placement in popular secondary schools and government bursaries. While the Middle East conflict presents disadvantages, it also creates specific economic advantages for the island. That's according to Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism, Vijay Herat. The minister made the remarks while attending a high-profile international wedding held over 4 days at a leading hotel in Hambantota. The event celebrated the union of a Pakistani entrepreneur and an Indian specialist doctor, drawing nearly 800 guests from the United Arab Emirates, India, Pakistan and England. Minister Herat noted that hosting such large-scale multi-themed international celebrations highlight Sri Lanka's potential to attract high-spending tourism despite global instability.
Now for some news in brief.
The Government Medical Officers Association stated that a 24-hour token strike will begin at 8 a.m. today to protest what it describes as unfair staff transfers.
The business news on Gold FM.
The all-share price index of the Colombo Stock Exchange declined 283.49 to close at 21,092.24 points. This is Roshan Fernando of Capital Trust Securities with your stock market update.
The market extended its decline on ongoing tension in the Middle East. The all-share price index declined 283 points to close at 21,092. The S&P 20 index also dropped 91 points to close at 5,908. Turnover remained muted at 2.17 billion. Trading was led by actively participation in Sampath Bank, John Keells Holdings, Lanka IOC. Total 163 stocks decline in price while 46 stocks gain. John Keells Holdings, NDB Bank, Haley's were the most weighted towards the all-share price index.
Global oil benchmarks, Brent and WTI, continue a 4-day rally as the conflict between Iran and the United States intensifies. Brent crude futures rose to $115 a barrel, marking their largest monthly gain on record, while US crude reached $105. Supply fears worsened after an Iranian attack reportedly struck a Kuwaiti tanker at Dubai port, and Houthi forces targeted Israel. Meanwhile, US crude oil futures closed above $102 per barrel for the first time since 2022.
International news on Gold FM.
US President Donald Trump is preparing to conclude military operations against Iran, even if the Strait of Hormuz remains largely closed to international traffic. A mission to force open the vital maritime passage would reportedly extend the conflict beyond the current 4 to 6 week timeline. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. Meanwhile, an Iranian parliamentary committee approved plans to impose tolls on ships moving through the strait, while specifically barring vessels from the United States and Israel. Maritime intelligence shows that crossings through the waterway dropped by approximately 95% since the onset of the war. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt provided few details during a briefing regarding the deployment of ground troops to seize Karg Island or secure Iranian nuclear material. Leavitt maintained that the administration's 4 to 6 weeks timeline feels right, and noted that behind-the-scenes talks continue despite communication difficulties with Iranian leadership. The press secretary emphasized that the president retains optionality on all military options as concerns grow over the prospect of American soldiers engaging in a prolonged ground conflict. A spokesperson for the Iranian Foreign Ministry denied that any direct negotiations took place with United States officials during the first month of the war. Ismail Baghei confirmed that while mediation efforts occurred through intermediaries such as Pakistan, Tehran remains focused on defending itself against ongoing military aggression. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi separately urged Saudi Arabia to eject American forces from the region, describing the United States as an enemy aggressor. Meanwhile, Prime Minister of Israel Benjamin Netanyahu told American media that he will not put a schedule on the war with Iran and when it is likely to end. Speaking to Newsmax, the Israeli leader stated that the campaign is definitely beyond the halfway point and predicted the Iranian government would eventually collapse from within. These comments come as the Israel Defense Forces confirmed a fresh wave of heavy strikes on regime infrastructure in Tehran and the neighboring city of Karaj. US President Donald Trump issued a warning, saying he would obliterate Iran's power plants oil wells and water desalination facilities if a deal is not reached shortly.
Entertainment news on Gold FM.
Celine Dion confirmed her return to the stage with a 10-night residency at the Paris La Défense Arena starting this September. The Canadian singer paused her career 4 years ago following a diagnosis of stiff person syndrome.
Sports news on Gold FM.
Teenage sensation Vaibhav Sooryavanshi enters the record books with a 15-ball half-century to lead Rajasthan Royals to an 8-wicket victory over Chennai Super Kings. The 15-year-old struck 5 sixes in his 17-ball innings after being dropped on a golden duck. Earlier, bowlers Jofra Archer, Nandre Berger and Ravindra Jadeja shared 6 wickets to dismiss a struggling Chennai side for 127. Rajasthan chased the target with nearly 8 overs to spare, leaving Chennai at the bottom of the early league table. Jamie Overton top scored for Chennai with 43, but received little support from the top order. That's it for now. This is Dulya De Silva for Gold FM. Thank you, and have a lovely day ahead.